Our last test will verify the integration between the RenderTodos and Todo components. I've created an extra describe block to group these specific tests as we will be dealing with the edit and delete functionality. So for example, if we have a current to-do and we click on the edit button and we edit our to-do, we want to verify that when we click the save button that our to-do is saved as expected. And lastly, we want to verify that if we click the delete button, that the to-do is removed from the application. We'll create our first it block for the first test that we're going to write. And we'll say it should save and update it to do. Because we'll be selecting the edit button and update input elements that we did in our previous test, we know that we'll need the get by text and get by test ID methods. Our RenderTodos component, and we'll pass in update to do, be our mock update to do, our delete to do, our mock update to do, and then for our to dos, we'll pass in our one mock to do. And now we'll create a variable for our edit button. Set it equal to get by text. And now that we have the edit button, we'll click it. So we'll say user.click. And then we need to grab the update input. So we'll create a variable for that. And we use our test ID. And now that we have that, we can click it. So we'll say user.click. And then once we've clicked on the input, then we can type into it. So we'll say user.type. And inside it, we'll type updated to do. Now we need to grab the save edit button. And we need to figure out how to grab that. So let's pull in our debug method and see what the state of our DOM is at this point. So we'll save. And to grab our save button, we see there's a span and it has a data test ID that says save edits. So that's what we use to select that element. So we'll say const save edit equals get by test ID save edits. Now we can click that button. And once we've done that, now we can make our assertions. So we'll say expect mock update to do to have been called. And we'll expect that it has been called exactly one time. All right, we'll save. And our test is passing. Before we start the next test, I'll clean up the debug method from our current test, because we'll want to use that in the next test. And I'll actually fold this test block so our screen is a little cleaner. And we'll start our last it block. And for this test, we want to say it should delete a to-do. And actually with this test, we can use the same setup code from the previous test. And because we don't know exactly how we're going to select the delete button just yet, we'll just pull off the debug method. And we'll call it here and run it so we can see what the output looks like here and find our delete button. So here's delete, and it's a span that has a data test ID of item remove. So that's what we'll use to select the delete button. So we'll say get by test ID. We'll create a const for our delete button. And we'll say get by test ID and item remove. Now that we have that, we can click it. And then we can make our two assertions. We'll say expect mock delete to have been called and expect to have been called one time. All right, we'll save it and run the test. And everything's passing. As a final cleanup, we'll remove our debug. We don't need that anymore because our tests are completed. So in summary, we were able to verify the integration between the RenderTodos and To-Do components by testing that the user is able to save and update a to-do, and also that a user can delete a to-do.